about that time to get underway here for the grand opening of the Turning Point of Windham County on 39 Elm Street. My name is Lad Butler. I am the current chairman of the board for the Turning Point Board of Directors. And we have some guests here tonight who we are going to hear from. And our theme is keep it simple. We're going to try to do that, but things don't work out the way they do, but that's the way it's supposed to be. So our first guest speaker will be Rob Simpson, who is the current CEO, President CEO of the Brattleboro Retreat. He has been with us and sees us as a valuable partner in recovery and in the treatment here in Windham County.
But mental health and addiction is so much more than partnerships. Successful collaboration requires incredible trust between partners, underscored by the ability to imagine the pain inside your neighbors, and not to judge them, for society, as we know, for centuries, has judged people with mental illness and addiction, and the stigma has not yet gone away. Stigma has led to broken lives, lost promise, and incredible pain and suffering for many, too many people. I'm delighted actually to be able to speak before the governor speaks, because he is a true partner for us in mental health and addiction services. He offered support for us through the crisis and the closure of the state hospital, the flood that closed that state hospital and damaged the town of Brattleboro. He was here for us. He partnered with us. He called me one morning. He said, "Robbie," call me Robbie. Where are you? Over there, you are. Call me Robert Emmett. And he said, "It's 9 o'clock in the morning. By 9 o'clock tonight, I need your support. I'll be sending people down on a bus. Will you take them?" I said, "Of course." By 9 o'clock that night, I met the bus with chocolate chip cookies, and we know the rest of the story. Several years later, he also called me about the opiate crisis in Vermont. He said, "I need your support again." I said, "We're there, we've been there, we'll be there." He understands addiction. He took the lead as a governor in this country. He understands it in a way that no other governor came forward. And without that trust and without beginning to build that journey with him and the rest of the addiction community, in many ways, all of us wouldn't be sitting here today. Turning Point is such a key partner in the journey to recovery. It's an incredibly key partner for us at the retreat, incredibly valued community resource. We count on that partnership every single day. We are there for them, they are there for us, and together we are those who need our partnership and need our support in the community. Our mission at the retreat is to help people pursue recovery, and it's greatly strengthened by this new building and this expanded partnership with Turning Point today. So we celebrate you, Turning Point, we celebrate the community, and we celebrate the successes that we know will come from this partnership.
But the volunteer team comes together, and this is their home, and they just work on it and make things work. And it's been a community project. It was unfortunate that we had to leave downtown, even briefly, but as soon as we were outside of downtown, people started clamoring for us to come back. And so it just gave us a lot of very good attention, a lot of good financial and emotional support, and we just built our partnerships and kept going, and we're here. And I look out my office window some days at that beautiful mountain, and I can't quite believe it. But we know that we could never have done it alone, and we know that our key partners in this community and the governor. It's true that in the state of Vermont, in the nation, Vermont is seen as a leader. Our center here is one of 12 recovery centers in the state of Vermont, and we're all part of the Vermont Recovery Network. And that group and our peer recovery model is seen as a leader in the country, and that's very important, and it helps to have a governor like Governor Shumlin to really be a spokesperson for us. And we don't have to criminalize people's problems, and the Brattleboro Retreat is doing such wonderful work about standing up to stigma. There is just such magic that happens here. It's magical, but it's a lot of hard work, and we need each other's help. And I could talk a lot, but I think that's enough. I'll just say thank you. I'm just overwhelmed with everyone here today and everything that's happened along the way. Our board members and volunteers and staff, everyone who's made it possible, the relocation task force. It's just, this is such a team partnership here. This is all about collaboration. It's all about recovery, and it's all about having wonder of the world, and that we get to share that with each other. So thank you.
For all the volunteers, I know there's many, many volunteers here. And by the way, the volunteer numbers have doubled since the opening of this center. Thank you for the time that you're putting in. And I want to say to the folks who are being served by Turning Point, the guests that come here on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whatever it might be, thank you for your strength, your courage, and thank you for being a part of the recovery network, because you will have a bright future in Vermont because of the extraordinarily difficult work that you're doing right now. Listen, this is not a subject that governors like to talk about. It's not a subject that families like to talk about. It's not a subject that communities like to talk about. But because of places like Turning Point and the partnerships that Rob Simpson just talked about with our mental health organization, I know we got a lot of folks here also from our main supporting mental health organization in addition to the retreat, healthcare providers, nurses, doctors, schools, communities. We will be able to turn the clock on what I say is the single greatest challenge that threatens our quality of life in Vermont. Why do I say that? I found as governor, a year or two into the job, that I could be speaking to the Chamber of Commerce, I could be speaking to the accountants, I could be speaking to the home builders, or I could be speaking to almost any group in Vermont. And afterwards, folks would come up and tug me on the arm and say, Governor, we lost our son, we lost our mom, we've lost our daughter to addiction. I also found that I had lots of folks in small communities. Thanks, Becca Balancel, for joining us from Windham County. She's doing a great job for Windham County. Thank you, Becca. But I also found that when I go into little communities, store owners would say, you know, there's something weird going on. My store's gotten ripped off 3 or 4 or 5 times. We didn't used to get robbed. And Vermonters would say to me, you know, my car got broken into in Brattleboro, and I lost my iPad, or I lost the things that I used to, you know, I was born and raised in this community. We used to leave our key in the car not long ago, and it would always be there when we came back. So here's the point. Our denial of facing the realities of addiction, our willingness to turn, to avert our eyes to addiction on Main Street, while we fight and fear centers like Turning Point on our back streets, will destroy us. And what we're doing in Vermont is a little different than what's happening in the rest of America. We're standing up and saying, we have a challenge. We're passing out opiates approved by the FDA about 12, 15 years ago in the form of OxyContin and other pills, like candy. We're then surprised when folks who are prescribed opiates turn to higher other opiates like heroin, and we act as if we're puzzled by why we're in this situation. In Vermont, we're in a different conversation. We're facing the devil head on and saying, we know that we have a problem. That when we approve painkillers and pass them out like candy, folks will turn over time to the less expensive, purer form of opiates and other addictive substances. So we're all in this together. And what are we doing together? We're supporting places like Turning Point. The way the system actually works, I know some of you in this crowd have been through this yourselves, or have had family members or neighbors or friends. The way it works is we all know that that moment for opportunity to move someone from denial to recovery is when they bottomed out. That's what all the science suggests. It's when the blue lights are flashing. It's when the cuffs are on. It's when you are bottoming out. And what did we do? Barbara will tell you this. Our judicial system would take 4 or 5 months between that bottoming out moment and you're appearing before the judge to face your sentence. And by then, in most cases, you're back using, you're back denying, you're back abusing, you're back neglecting your children, you're back robbing your family, and you're back robbing your neighbors. You're back in a very desperate place. So we said in Vermont, let's have the courage to change the system. Right now, every single state's attorney in Vermont has hired, paid for by the state, a third-party assessor. And the moment that you bottom out, we're there to do an assessment. And that person says, this is someone who you should be afraid of. And if that's the case, and it's the vast minority of folks that we're dealing with, they will go through the criminal justice system much like they did before. But in the vast array of cases, where it's folks who are deeply ill, who have done some horrid things to themselves and maybe their family members because of their neglect, but who are not anyone that we should be afraid of, but who we should be offering services to, we say, listen, you join up. You get into treatment. You join programs like Turning Point, where you get peer-to-peer counseling instead of just folks who are not doing peer-to-peer. You do all the things that we know you can do. And you will never see a judge. You will never see a jail. And you will never see a criminal record. So that when you are in recovery, you can go back and get a job and rejoin your family and become an integral and important part of the fabric of Vermont like everybody else. That's what we're changing. So I'm not here to sound like a preacher, but I just want to say this, and I know I've gone on too long, but this stuff really matters, and folks don't understand the steps that we're taking to try to get this right. What we all must celebrate today is that Turning Point is here, and that we have many of the supports in place to help us do better in the future. What we also must accept is that the economic forces continue to work against us so that we're signing more people up for the disease. It's just the brutal truth. This is how the economics work. You can buy a bag of heroin in Springfield or Mount Holyoke or Brooklyn for $5 a bag. You can sell it in Brattleboro for $20 to $30 a bag. Raise your hand if you found a business model like that. The point is, we're up against some pretty tough challenges. It's called human greed at the expense of giving poison to our friends and our neighbors that will destroy their lives in ways that are unimaginable. So what I ask us all to do as we celebrate building out the system and celebrating this Turning Point as a place that's going to make a huge difference is this. Every one of us must turn to our friends and our neighbors and convince them that the most dire thing that they can do with their lives is sign up for this particular addiction. Because folks in this audience know it's the most difficult, debilitating struggle, disease that you ever want to get. It's as nasty as it comes, and there is no joyful moment as you go through this terrible disease. So we're in this together as a state. We're confronting it head on, only like Vermont does. We're celebrating this Turning Point opening, and we're all, I hope, committing to do better at stopping the funnel end, because that, in the end, is the only thing that's going to work. Thank you so much for all you're doing.